After an insane season, the Milwaukee Bucks just had the most embarrassing series loss in NBA history. How do you lose to a team who barely made it into the playoffs? So what have the Bucks done this offseason to take them back to the place they were in 2021? Join us as we break down the Bucks offseason, their new signings, and even a brand new head coach. If you appreciate the insight, give us a like and subscribe. Now let's get into it. Before we take a look at the moves that the Bucks have made this offseason, it is important to remember where the team is coming from. Well, Buck fans couldn't have been happy about the regular season last year. Despite losing their final two games of the regular season, the Bucks still finished with the number one seed in the East. Heading into the playoffs with Chris Middleton completely healthy, the thought was that the Bucks could go on a run similar to 2021. Exactly like 2021, the Bucks met the Miami Heat in the first round. But I'm sure as Buck fans know, things did not get well at all. The series could not have started much worse, with the Bucks losing at home and the Greek Freak picking up an injury in that game. With their superstar missing 2 games and not looking like himself, the Bucks could not stop the Heat at all. Miami averaged more than 120 points per game as the Bucks defense fell apart completely. Losing at home in overtime in Game 5 was an awful moment for Bucks fans. It was the first time that the number 1 seed had been knocked out by the 8th seed in more than a decade. After that terrible performance, big changes were needed to this Bucks team, and that is what the team delivered. The big story of the Milwaukee Bucks offseason is the controversial decision for the team to move on from head coach Mike Budenholzer. Budenholzer had coached the Bucks to the title in 2021, and the move was seen as slightly harsh by some Bucks fans. The injury to Giannis made things pretty difficult for the Bucks, and Budenholzer went through some personal troubles during the season. He had been the coach that led the Bucks to all the success they have had over the last 5 years. But the Bucks felt like it was the right move after a terrible loss in the playoffs. Maybe harsh on the 2-time NBA Coach of the Year, but Milwaukee wanted something different, and they went with someone no one saw coming as their head coach. Adrian Griffin is the man who the Bucks have chosen to go with as their new head coach. When the move was announced, a lot of fans were thinking the same thing. Who? Griffin is certainly a risk for the Bucks. Despite a long coaching career, this is the first time that Griffin has ever been a head coach in the NBA. Well, he did actually have 1 game as acting head coach for the Toronto Raptors in 2022, but that is not a lot of experience. No one can doubt that Griffin does have coaching experience in the league. After retiring from basketball in 2008, he joined Milwaukee for the first time as an assistant coach under Scott Skiles. He was clearly a sought-after asset because Tom Thibodeau recruited Griffin to the Chicago Bulls in 2010. Griffin was part of the coaching staff for the 2014 FIBA World Cup where the USA won gold. His most successful time was his stint with the Toronto Raptors. Griffin joined in 2018, and he was a crucial part of the coaching staff that helped the Raptors win the title in 2019. It is a risky move with former Raptors head coach Nick Nurse one of the men on the list of finalists for the job. Nurse does have head coaching experience, but the Bucks went with Griffin because they liked his leadership and ability to coach a high-level defense. In the regular season, the Bucks had just the 14th best defense, and it really hurt them in the playoffs. It also helped Griffin's case that the general manager, John Horst, was in the front office when Griffin joined the team as an assistant back in 2008. With change at head coach, the Bucks have not really made huge changes in their squad at the moment. The team did have a big decision to make with Chris Middleton this offseason, but decided to reward him with a new 3-year, $102 million deal. The thing that is going to scare Bucks fans about this deal is that multiple different injuries meant that he only played in 33 regular season games last season, with Middleton's numbers dropping significantly. He was good in the playoffs, but could not stop the Bucks being embarrassed. The issue for the Bucks is that Middleton is 32 years old now. He's probably going to be moving in the wrong direction in terms of ability, and so that is a huge amount of money to give to an aging, injury-prone Chris Middleton. But after off-season surgery, the knee soreness which hurt Middleton during the season should not be there anymore. Also, when you compare that money to some of the sums paid around the league, it does not look quite as bad. The Mavericks gave Kyrie Irving $24 more million than Middleton, and Kyrie is just a year younger than the Bucks forward. Per year, the deal means that Middleton is earning less than Desmond Bane, Tyrese Halliburton, and Domantas Sabonis. I guess we will have to wait and see whether the contract was a good or bad move for the Bucks organization. While the bumper contract for Chris Middleton took the headlines, Brook Lopez was rewarded with a new deal this offseason. Coming off the back of a season where Lopez was the team's third highest scorer and top blocker, Lopez now has a 2-year, $48 million deal. Lopez finished second in Defensive Player of the Year voting, and you would imagine that incoming head coach Adrian Griffin was desperate to hold on to Lopez. He also offers a durability that not a lot of Bucks roster can. But the questions about the Bucks roster being slightly too old have not been helped by the team re-signing Jay Crowder. Despite barely featuring in the playoffs, the Bucks have still decided to give Crowder a 1-year minimum contract. In this offseason, the Bucks have also added to the depth in their backcourt. Despite trading for him in February, the Los Angeles Lakers decided against taking up Malik Beasley's team option, making him a free agent. With just a 1-year deal worth around $2.7 million, this could be a pretty good bargain for the Bucks. Beasley offers some competition to Grayson Allen, a solid shooter you would imagine that Beasley will slot into the rotation of the Bucks bench. Other than that, there's not really a lot of change in this Bucks team. Milwaukee used their second-round pick in the draft of Kentucky forward Chris Livingston. While he was one of the top players in the 2022 recruiting class, don't expect a massive amount from Livingston in his rookie season. Drew Timme and Omari Moore are two undrafted players that the team has signed to two-way contracts. Both showed some talent in college, but it would be a surprise to see either of them playing for the Bucks next season. Free agency saw a couple of the Bucks bench players head for the exit door. Javon Carter will be a disappointing loss, considering last season was an impressive one for Carter, and he could have offered some defense to this Adrian Griffin team. Considering he'll be 36 when the 2023-24 season starts, losing Joe Ingles is not a massive issue for the Bucks. Ingles did average 7 points, 3 assists, and 3 rebounds last season off the bench for the Bucks, but this is the sort of production which can be replaced. Other than those two, the Bucks are one of those teams that have been able to keep a pretty consistent squad together. It is important for the squad to stay together because the coaching staff has gone through so much change. A terrible first-round loss really took away from what was another good season for the Milwaukee Bucks. Even with Chris Middleton struggling, they were still able to comfortably secure the top spot in the Eastern Conference. The team's move to get rid of Mike Budenholzer is an incredibly risky one. Budenholzer is the man who coached the Bucks to the NBA title just 2 years ago. There was nothing he could do about Giannis being injured in that first-round series. But on the other hand, losing Giannis showed how much the Bucks relied on him. Bringing in a guy like Adrian Griffin should help the Bucks organize a solid defense, which won't fall apart when Giannis is not at his best. I think it really sets up the Bucks to have a good season once again. Malik Beasley will help the Bucks rotation, and this team is headed into the season without the injuries that plagued them a lot of last season. They could finally start a season with both the Greek Freak and Middleton healthy. But there is some concern that the supporting cast of the Milwaukee Bucks is getting too old. They officially have the third oldest roster in the NBA. The title window could be starting to close slightly on this team. This season still looks like it will be one where the Bucks can mount a title charge, but it is not going to be easy. The team needs to focus on developing more young talent if they want to keep the title window open even longer. So, what do you think about the Milwaukee Bucks offseason? Why not put your thoughts in the comments down below?